Competitive swimming in Britain started around 1830, mostly using breaststroke. Swimming was part of the first modern Olympic Games in 1896 in Athens. In 1908, the World Swimming Association, FAR Fédération Internationale de Natation, was formed. Ancient times. 10,000-year-old rock paintings of people swimming were found in the Cave of Swimmers near Wadi Shura in southwestern Egypt. These pictures seem to show breaststroke or dog paddle, although it is also possible that the movements have a ritual meaning unrelated to swimming. An Egyptian clay seal dated between 9000 BCE and 4000 BCE shows 4 people who are believed to be swimming a variant of the front crawl. More references to swimming are found in the Babylonian bas-reliefs and Assyrian wall drawings, depicting a variant of the breaststroke. The most famous drawings were found in the Kabir Desert and are estimated to be from around 4000 BCE. The Nagoda bas-relief also shows swimmers inside of men dating back from 3000 BCE. The Indian palace Mohenjo-daro from 2800 BCE contains a swimming pool sized 30 m by 60 m. The Minoan palace of Knossos in Crete also featured baths. An Egyptian tomb from 2000 BCE shows a variant of front crawl. Depictions of swimmers have also been found from the Hittites, Minoans, and other Middle Eastern civilizations, in the Tepe-Titler compound at Teotihuacan, and in mosaics in Pompeii. Written references date back to ancient times, with the earliest as early as 2000 BC. Such references occur in works like Gilgamesh, the Iliad, the Odyssey, the Bible, Beowulf, and other sagas, although the style is never described. There are also many mentions of swimmers in the Vatican, Borgian and Bourbon codices. A series of reliefs from 850 BC in the Nimrud Gallery of the British Museum show swimmers, mostly in military context, often using swimming aids. The Germanic folklore describes swimming, which was used successfully in wars against the Romans. Early modern era. Leonardo da Vinci made early sketches of life belts. In 1539, Nikolaus Inman, a German professor of languages, wrote the first swimming book Columbeats. His purpose was to reduce the dangers of drowning. The book contained a good methodical approach to learning breaststroke, and mentioned swimming aids such as air-filled cow bladders, reed bundles, and cork belts. In 1587, Everett Digby also wrote a swimming book, claiming that humans could swim better than fish. Digby was a senior fellow at St John's College, Cambridge, and was interested in the scientific method. His short treatise, De Arte Natandi, was written in Latin and contained over 40 woodcut illustrations depicting various methods of swimming, including the breaststroke, backstroke and crawl. Digby regarded the breaststroke as the most useful form of swimming. In 1603, Emperor Go-Yozei of Japan declared that schoolchildren should swim. In 1696, the French author Melchiser Copyright H. The Copyright Vinot wrote The Art of Swimming, describing a breaststroke very similar to the modern breaststroke. This book was translated into English and became the standard reference of swimming for many years to come. In 1739, Guts Mutz from Schneppenthal, Germany, wrote Gymnastik für 1/4 die Jugend, including a significant portion about swimming. In 1794, Canonicus Oronzio de Bernardi of Italy wrote a 2-volume book about swimming, including floating practice as a prerequisite for swimming studies. In 1798, Guts Mutz wrote another book Kleines Lübeck der Schwimmkunst zum Selbstunterricht, recommending the use of a fishing rod device to aid in the learning of swimming. His books describe a 3-step approach to learning to swim that is still used today. First, get the student used to the water. Second, practice the swimming movements out of the water. And third, practice the swimming movements in the water. He believed that swimming is an essential part of every education. The Hallerin, a group of salt makers in Halle, Germany, greatly advanced swimming through setting a good example to others by teaching their children to swim at a very early age. Swimming is a competitive sport. Swimming emerged as a competitive sport in the 1830s in England. In 1828, the first indoor swimming pool, St George's Baths, was opened to the public. By 1837, the National Swimming Society was holding regular swimming competitions in 6 artificial swimming pools, built around London. The sport grew in popularity, and by 1880, when the first national governing body, the Amateur Swimming Association, was formed, there were already over 300 regional clubs in operation across the country. In 1844 a swimming competition was held in London with the participation of 2 Native Americans. The British competitor used the traditional breaststroke, while the Native Americans swam a variant of the front crawl, which had been used by people in the Americas for generations, but was not known to the British. The winning medal went to Flying Gull, who swam the 130-foot length in just 30 seconds. The Native American swimming method proved to be a much faster style than the British breaststroke. The Times of London reported disapprovingly that the Native American stroke was an unrefined motion with the arms like a windmill, and the chaotic and unregulated kicking of the legs. The considerable splashing that the stroke caused was deemed to be barbaric and un-European to the British gentlemen, who preferred to keep their heads over the water. Subsequently, the British continued to swim only breaststroke until 1873. The British did, however, adapt the breaststroke into the speedier sidestroke, where the swimmer lies to one side. This became the more popular choice by the late 1840s. In 1895, J. H. Thayers of England swam 100 yards in a record-breaking 1:02.50 using a side stroke. Sir John Arthur Trojan picked up the hand-over stroke from South American natives he observed swimming on a trip to Buenos Aires. On his return to England in 1868, he successfully debuted the new stroke in 1873 and won a local competition in 1875. Although the new stroke was really the reintroduction of a more intuitive method for swimming, one that had been in evidence in ancient cultures such as ancient Assyria, his method revolutionized the state of competitive swimming. His stroke is still regarded as the most powerful to use today. In his stroke, the arms were brought forward, alternating, while the body rolled from side to side. The kick was a scissors kick such as that familiarly used in breaststroke, with one kick for 2 arm strokes, although it is believed that the Native Americans had indeed used a flutter kick. Front crawl variants used different ratios of scissor kicks to arm strokes, or alternated with a flutter kick. The speed of the new stroke was demonstrated by F.V.C. Lane in 1901, swimming 100 yards in 1:00.0, an improvement of about 10 seconds compared to the breaststroke record. Due to its speed, the Trojan became very quickly popular around the world, despite all the ungentlemanlike splashing. Captain Matthew Webb was the first man to swim the English Channel, in 1875. He used breaststroke, swimming 21.26 miles in 21 hours and 45 minutes. His feat was not replicated or surpassed for the next 36 years, until T.W. Burgess made the crossing in 1911. Other European countries also established swimming federations. Germany in 1882, France in 1890 and Hungary in 1896. The first European amateur swimming competitions were in 1889 in Vienna. The world's first women's swimming championship was held in Scotland in 1892. Nancy Edberg popularized women's swimming in Stockholm from 1847. She made swimming lessons accessible for both genders and later introduced swimming lessons for women in Denmark and Norway. Her public swimming exhibitions from 1856 with her students were likely among the first public exhibitions of women swimming in Europe. In 1897, Captain Henry Sheffield designed a rescue can or rescue cylinder, now well known as the life-saving device. The pointed ends made it slide faster through the water, although it can cause injuries. Olympic era. The Olympic Games were held in 1896 in Athens, a male-only competition. 6 events were planned for the swimming competition, but only 4 events were actually contested: 100 m, 500 m, and 1200 m freestyle and 100 m for sailors. The first gold medal was won by Alfra copyright D. Hojar S of Hungary in the 100 m freestyle. Hojar S was also victorious in the 1200 m event, and was unable to compete in the 500 m, which was won by Austrian Paul Newman. The second Olympic Games in Paris in 1900 featured 200 m, 1000 m, and 4000 m freestyle. 200m backstroke, and a 200m team race. There were 2 additional unusual swimming events, an obstacle swimming course in the same river, and an underwater swimming race. The 4000m freestyle was won by John Arthur Jarvis in under 1 hour, the longest Olympic swimming race until the 10K marathon swim was introduced in 2008. The backstroke was also introduced to the Olympic Games in Paris, as was water polo. The Osborne Swimming Club from Manchester beat club teams from Belgium, France and Germany quite easily. The Trojan Stroke was improved by Australian-born Richmond Cavill. Cavill, whose father Frederick Cavill narrowly failed to swim the English Channel, is credited with developing the stroke after observing a young boy from the Solomon Islands. Cavill and his brothers spread the Australian crawl to England, New Zealand and America. Richmond used this stroke in 1902 at an international championships in England to set a new world record by outswimming all Trojan swimmers over the 100 yards and 0:58.4. The Olympics in 1904 in St. Louis included races over 50 yards, 100 yards, 220 yards, 440 yards, 880 yards and 1 mile freestyle, 100 yards backstroke and 440 yards breaststroke, and the 4x50 yards freestyle relay. These games differentiated between breaststroke and freestyle, so that there were now 2 defined styles and freestyle, where most people swam Trojan. These games also featured a competition to plunge for distance, where the distance without swimming, after jumping in a pool, was measured. In 1908, the World Swimming Association FINA Fédération Internationale de Natation Amateur was formed. Women were first allowed to swim in the 1912 Summer Olympics in Stockholm, competing in freestyle races. In the 1912 Games, Harry Hebner of the United States won the 100m backstroke. At these games Duke Kahanamoku from Hawaii won the 100m freestyle, having learned the 6 kicks per cycle front crawl from older natives of his island. This style is now considered the classical front crawl style. The men's competitions were 100m, 400m, and 1500m freestyle, 100m backstroke, 200m and 400m breaststroke, and 4x200m freestyle relay. The women unregistered trademark S competitions were 100m freestyle and 4x100m freestyle relay. The Deutsche Bundesrettungsgesellschaft was established on October 19, 1913 in Leipzig after 17 people drowned while trying to board the cruise steamer Kronprinz Wilhelm. In the same year the first elastic swimsuit was made by the sweater company Janssen. In 1922, Johnny Weissmuller became the first person to swim the 100m in less than a minute, using a 6 kicks per cycle Australian crawl. Johnny Weissmuller started the golden age of swimming, winning 5 Olympic medals and 36 national championships and never losing a race in his 10-year career, until he retired from swimming and started his second career starring as Tarzan in film. His record of 51 seconds in 100-yard freestyle stood for over 17 years. In the same year, Sybil Bauer was the first woman to break a MENA unregistered trademark S world record over the 440m backstroke and 6:24.8. At the 1924 Summer Olympics in Paris, lane dividers made of cork were used for the first time, and lines on the pool bottom aided with orientation. Swimming innovation. The scientific study of swimming began in 1928 with David Armbruster, a coach at the University of Iowa, who filmed swimmers underwater. The Japanese also used underwater photography to research the stroke mechanics, and subsequently dominated the 1932 Summer Olympics. Armbruster also researched a problem of breaststroke where the swimmer was slowed down significantly while bringing the arms forward underwater. In 1934 Armbruster refined a method to bring the arms forward over water in breaststroke. While this butterfly technique was difficult, it brought a great improvement in speed. 1 year later, in 1935, Jack Sayegh, a swimmer also from the University of Iowa, developed a technique involving swimming on his side and beating his legs in unison similar to a fishtail, and modified the technique afterward to swim it face down. Armbruster and Syed combined these techniques into a variant of the breaststroke called butterfly, with the 2 kicks per cycle being called Dolphin Fishtail kick. Using this technique, Syed swam 100 yards in 1:00.2. However, even though this technique was much faster than regular breaststroke, the Dolphin Fishtail kick violated the rules and was not allowed. Therefore, the butterfly arms with a breaststroke kick were used by a few swimmers in the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin for the breaststroke competitions. In 1938, almost every breaststroke swimmer was using this butterfly style, yet this stroke was considered a variant of the breaststroke until 1952, when it was accepted as a separate style with a set of rules. Around that time, another modification to the backstroke became popular. Previously, the arms were held straight during the underwater push phase, for example by the top backstroke swimmer from 1935 to 1945, Adolf Kiefer. However, Australian swimmers developed a technique where the arms are bent underwater, increasing the horizontal push and the resulting speed and reducing the wasted force upward and sideways. This style is now generally used worldwide. In 1935, topless swimsuits for men were worn for the first time during an official competition. In 1943, the U.S. ordered the reduction of fabric in swimsuits by 10% due to wartime shortages, resulting in the first 2-piece swimsuits. Shortly afterwards, the bikini was invented in Paris by Louis Réard or Jacques Heim. Another modification was developed for breaststroke. In breaststroke, breaking the water surface increases the friction, reducing the speed of the swimmer. Therefore, swimming underwater increases the speed. This led to a controversy at the 1956 Summer Olympics in Melbourne, and 6 swimmers were disqualified as they repeatedly swam long distances underwater between surfacing to breathe. The rule was changed to require breaststroke to be swum at the surface, starting with the first surfacing after the start and after each turn. However, one Japanese swimmer, Masaru Furukawa, circumvented the rule by not surfacing at all after the start, but swimming as much of the lane underwater as possible before breaking the surface. He swam all but 5 m underwater for the first 350 m laps, and also swam half underwater for the last lap, winning the gold medal. The adoption of this technique led to many swimmers suffering from oxygen starvation or even some swimmers passing out during the race due to a lack of air, and a new breaststroke rule was introduced by FINA, additionally limiting the distance that can be swum underwater after the start and every turn, and requiring the head to break the surface every cycle. The 1956 Games in Melbourne also saw the introduction of the flip turn, a sort of tumble turn to faster change directions at the end of the lane. In 1972, another famous swimmer, Mark Spitz, was at the height of his career. During the 1972 Summer Olympics in Munich, Germany, he won 7 gold medals. Shortly thereafter, in 1973, the first Swimming World Championship was held in Belgrade, Yugoslavia by the FINA. Breaking the water surface reduces the speed in swimming. The swimmers Daichi Suzuki and David Berghoff used this for the 100 m backstroke at the 1988 Summer Olympics in Seoul. Berghoff swam 33 m of the first lane completely underwater using only a dolphin kick, far ahead of his competition. A sports commentator called this a Berghoff blast-off. Suzuki, having practiced the underwater technique for 10 years, surfaced only a little bit earlier, winning the race in 55.05. At that time, this was not restricted by FINA backstroke rules. The backstroke rules were quickly changed in the same year by the FINA to ensure the health and safety of the swimmers, limiting the underwater phase after the start to 10 meters, which was expanded to 15 m in 1991. In Seoul, Kristin Otto from East Germany won 6 gold medals, the most ever won by a woman. Another innovation is the use of flip turns for backstroke. According to the rules, a backstroke swimmer had to touch the wall while lying less than 90 degrees out of the horizontal. Some swimmers discovered that they could turn faster if they rolled almost 90 degrees sideways, touched the wall, and made a forward tumble turn, pushing off the wall on their backs. The FINA has changed the rules to allow the swimmers to turn over completely before touching the wall to simplify this turn and to improve the speed of the races. Similarly, the dolphin kick underwater swimming technique is now also used for butterfly. Consequently, in 1998 FINA introduced a rule limiting swimmers to 15 meters underwater per lap before they must surface. After underwater swimming for freestyle and backstroke, the underwater swimming technique is now also used for butterfly, for example by Dennis Pankratov or Angela Kennedy, swimming large distances underwater with a dolphin kick. FINA is again considering a rule change for safety reasons. It is faster to do butterfly kick underwater for the first few meters off the wall than swimming at the surface. In 2005, FINA declared that you may take one underwater dolphin kick in the motion of a breaststroke pullout. In 1998, FINA registered trademark T. Leakum swam across the Atlantic Ocean, a total of 5,600 kilometers in 72 days, swimming 6 to 8 hours daily. He was accompanied by 3 sailors on a boat. The Rocky Mountain News disputed what he did could be described as having swum across the Atlantic. Sophisticated bodyskins were banned from FINA competitions from the start of 2010 after many national swimming federations demanded the action, and leading athletes such as Michael Phelps and Rebecca Adlington criticized the suits. See also: Aquatic ape hypothesis, swimming at the Summer Olympics, swimcap, references.